very warm welcome to the Global Sports Channel today to Tasha Danvers. Tasha, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Now, you were just telling me before we came on air that you're a bit of a comedian, so we're going to find out today how much of a comedian you are.
Word, but I'll take it.
Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, how are you today? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling actually really good. I tried to do a little workout earlier, but it's raining, and my partner was like, you sure you're all right working out in the rain? I'm from England, man. We get like rain every day. So I'm out there and it's showering down. He starts blowing his horn like, get back in the car. We're not going to be able to do what we need to do. So I might go back out later. But other than that, I'm feeling fantastic.
How can people even question whether people in the UK go out in the rain or not? That's just beside myself.
I'm telling you, because in Los Angeles, it drizzled a little bit and everyone's like running to get to their houses. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? It's water. Don't you shower?
So you've just given away the answer to the next question. You're in LA at the moment. How long have you been living in LA for?
Well, I was actually recruited to run track and field for the University of Southern California in Los Angeles in 1996. So that's when I first became a US resident, and I would go back and forth between London and the US. And so I've basically been here since 1996. I did go back for about 3 years in 2009 until about 2013. And other than that, I've been here. So I always would feel like it would get scary when I'd been in the US more than I've been in the UK. Like, I am still a Brit.
Do you feel like you've started to lose your identity a little bit as a Brit?
Well, I do feel like I'm quite disconnected from culture, the current culture, like what's going on, who are the famous artists and who's the famous sports people and all the sort of stuff that you would hear on a daily basis just from watching TV or listening to the news. So I do feel disconnected from that. But I still got my British friends who keep me up on anything that might be worth storing in. You know, I don't use a lot of this, so I don't want to fill it up with a bunch of junk. So they keep me up on the important stuff.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, one of the things that I do on my show is I allow the guests to dedicate their show to someone special in their life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
You know what? I will dedicate my show to my son, because my son had to sacrifice a lot with growing up with me still in the sports career during his early stages of life. And he's come out all right, you know what I mean? Like, despite his mum. So,
despite his mum.
I have to say, I would dedicate it to my son, Jaden Smith.
Jaden Smith, a wonderful dedication. Maybe you two can sit down later on with some popcorn and watch this show together. That'd be a nice mother and son thing to do, yeah?
There you go.
Now, tell us, you've got Jamaican roots, and I wanted to know how important that is to you. Do you have a connection to Jamaica today still?
Yeah, I mean, Jamaican roots, definitely got some Jamaican roots there. My parents are both Jamaican, so, you know, and I love my parents. So anything that is part of your parents, you tend to want to gravitate to that, learn more about that, know more about that. I haven't been to Jamaica half as much as I would love to, but, you know, I'm always around the house trying to talk patois. My partner's always trying to talk patois, and I'm like, no, don't do that. You're going to get us killed. It sounds terrible. but, you know, I'm definitely overdue for a trip there. And I think the last time I was there was 2012. So that was quite a while ago now, you know, and I just love to go back. Jamaica is a beautiful place. So it's definitely good to be able to say, yeah, I'm from the islands.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had Michael Frater on the show just recently, and he's got a new training academy going over there where he's helping a lot of the young Jamaican kids who want to become superstars. Right. And I'm sure he'd love you to go over and do a session with his group at some stage, yeah?
I'm open. I love doing stuff like that. I'm good with kids because, as you can see, I'm nuts, and kids love nuts, so that worked for me. So, I can get along with any age, but I think it takes a special kind of, you know, je ne sais quoi to really relate to kids, because you can't be someone who gets embarrassed easily or, you know, forgets that they're kids and you're an adult, so you can't just like talk at them. You've got to be play. They want to have fun, and fun is one of my values. So we have good bonds. I do a lot of stuff for Ready Set Gold, which sends Olympians into schools to work with kids and teach them about health and fitness and stuff like that. So I love it.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's continue on the fun theme here on the show. Now, you had two parents who were into athletics themselves. So was that kind of a role model for you when you first got into athletics? Was it something that inspired you?
Interestingly, they grew up in an era for a young black child from the Caribbean where that wasn't a thing. You're not going to be an athlete, my friend. You're going to go get a job and you're going to get some money. So carrying on sports as a career wasn't really part of their process. So by the time I was born, they were far removed from sports. And I think that was probably harder for my dad than it was for my mum, because he was very good. He was a great hurdler. And like I tell people all the time, he can quote his newspaper article from top to bottom to this day. Danvers expertly skimmed over each barrier. I mean, he knows every word. So he's very passionate about sports, and I think it was really great for him to see me go and carry that on. Same for my mum as well. My mum was a heptathlete, and when I started out, I did the multi-events. I did the pentathlon, so I was pretty good at that. So they both had an affinity for sport, a passion for sport, but never really said, oh, you've got to go in this direction. My dad at some points, because I would do school sports day and I'd be, I wanted to be in 100, the glory event. My dad kept saying, try the hurdles. I'm like, no one wants to do the hurdles. No one's looking at the hurdles. Try the hurdles. He'd said that for ages. And eventually, because of the pentathlon, I had to get into the hurdles. And I looked horrendous. And they said they would every time I would race, they just knew I was going to bite it, right?
Yeah.
But they could see that even with all that, I was still winning the races. And so they advised me, listen, we know a good coach, get with her, sort out your hurdles, you're going to be even better. And sort of that, the rest is history.
Indeed it is. Did you try other sports other than anything athletics? Did you kick a football around or do anything like that?
Well, I did a bit of trampolining in school.
Trampolining?
I think I got my...
Was that a thing, was it? Was trampolining a thing?
Yeah, trampolining was a thing.
Right.
I don't know if it's still a thing, but I sure wish I had that kind of flexibility now. I'll tell you that. I can barely touch my toes. But so I did trampolining, definitely did a lot of netball. I was goal defense in school. But outside of school, I didn't do anything outside of track and field, because by the time I got out of secondary school, I was already very much embedded into the track and field process and doing well there. Adults had already spotted talent, so were now steering me in that direction. So with track and field, like many other sports, when you start focusing on it, there's not really a lot of room. I see a lot of parents putting their kids in so many sports. I don't even know how they stay alive, because even one sport is quite a lot physically and mentally and very often emotionally as well. So, so I was purely track and field once that direction had been taken.
So tell me, from when you were a young kid and you got the peer pressure going on from your girlfriends and you say, oh, I'm into hurdling, what was the kind of feedback you used to get from your friends when you told them you were a hurdler?
Yeah, the funny thing is, people always already knew because of sports day. So all the friends I had were basically from secondary school, and they already knew that I was that way inclined because I was doing well on sports days. So that it became more and more obvious. And even through netball and trampolining and, other things, we'd play rounders and stuff like that. They would see that I had, some talent in the sports department. So it wasn't a surprise for anyone when I followed that pathway. What's interesting was the new friends that I gained that I didn't have in secondary school once I got the medal. All these emails. We didn't even like me or whatever, or we didn't even talk in school. And I'm like, hey, girl, remember secondary school? I'm like, really?
Really, yeah. Wow. Is that all it takes? Yeah, Olympic medal for people to come
Yes.
out and be
I've
friends
got
with
new
you.
friends and new family.
So let's go back to when you first started competing. Obviously, you did track meets at school. That was where it all started off. But what was your first race in a major competition away from school?
Gosh, I think, gosh, that's an interesting question because I'm not good with memories and sentimental things.
I should ask your dad. I need to get in hold of your dad.
Oh my God. My dad would know, my mum would know, everybody would know but me. Like, people are always telling me stories. The coach that I had, my ex-husband, the coach that I had when I got the medal, he was just telling me the other day, do you remember that when you fell at the Commonwealth Games that you fractured your foot? You had a fracture in your foot. And I was like, really?
Wow. You didn't remember that.
That's how much I forget. But yeah, when I was younger, I remember we started out with the club stuff. So I was with South London Harriers when I first started. Mm-hmm. And so we have these track meets. And if I remember rightly, there were some meets that we were on cinder still. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Old. Really? Really?
Because I just remember the mud. I remember the mud. That part I remember. So we were still getting into the rubber and the tartan tracks. So that's interesting. But I think the most significant race when I was younger was when I was still in under 15 and I raced up, which ruffled quite a few people's feathers for some reason. I was coached by Judy, and she had put me, she was a former Commonwealth champion herself, and she saw that because of the way I was built, I was long already with long legs. She didn't see the point in taking me from 75-meter hurdles to 80-meter hurdles and then to 100-meter hurdles. So she jumped me from 75 to 100, and everyone's like, oh my God, you're gonna ruin her. This is right. So she's like, yeah, whatever. She's American. So
I was going to say, good accent. Yeah.
Yeah. So she put me in 100, and I ended up competing at the under 20s against the reigning European champion at the time, which was Diane Allegreen. She was our best 100 hurdler at the time, and I beat her. So it was like, oh, baby.
Game on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. She became a great friend down the line, but that was really significant because especially my coach had kind of put her neck out there by going against the grain and putting me in the 100 hurdles. And she proved that, just because something's been done this way all the time doesn't mean that something else can't work. So that was quite a milestone in my hurdling career in the early days, because I think I was couldn't have been any older than 17 at that time.
Were you running flat races as well then, or just over the hurdles?
I would run some, but for some reason, there's just too much air. Like this, I need some challenges in the way, and apparently my life likes to replicate my sport. So always challenges. I just feel like I'm in no man's land. I've never been that fast in flat races for some reason. But, I guess if you're born to hurdle, you're born to hurdle.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I just want you to confirm for all the listeners and viewers today, we've never met before today, have we?
No, sir. This is the first time I laid eyes on you.
Well, I tell you what, it's not
sneaky Googling.
It's not the first time I've laid eyes on you, and I'm not confessing to stalking you right now. But I was in I was in Seville in Spain in 1999 at the World Athletic Championships. Yes.
And were you really 99?
You walked past me. I was about 5 meters away from the entrance to the track where the athletes came out. I watched your heat. I think you ran. I got a good memory. 56.6. Does that ring a bell? Yeah.
In them days.
And that was a fantastic championships. There was a lot of great stuff going on. Seville was a great place. I loved that. I loved that place. It was hot. It was hot. Very, very hot. How did you deal with the heat down there?
Well, as an athlete, you just got to be ready for everything, from the rain to the sun to the extreme heat to the extreme cold. You just got to be ready for all of it, because at the end of the day, you just don't know what's going to show up when the gun goes off, on the day the gun goes off, and it's going to go off. I mean,
yeah,
unless we have a situation like we're in now,
yeah.
but for the most part, when it's conditions, you just have to be mindful. Okay, so do I need more hydration? Do I need more shelter? Do I need to adjust my warm up, or whatever the case may be? You just become really mindful. Is it windy today? Does that affect how I'm going to run this race? Everything, every little detail matters, especially once you get really, really high up in your sport, because what a lot of people don't realize till they get there is once you get there, pretty much everyone's super talent.
Right.
So the difference is going to be between who's dotted their I's and crossed their T's, both physically and mentally. So a lot of people may leave the mental thing on the shelf thinking, I'll just deal with it when I get there, because maybe they can't even imagine what it would be like to be there. But it behooves you to work on the mental as well, because like I said, once you get to that level, there's a lot of people super talented at that level. So now, how are you going to out compete that person? How are you going to out mentally perform that person? How are you going to stay composed? So all of it matters. So the heat, I can't remember how I dealt with the heat back then. I was so young in terms of competing at major championships, but I remember in France, I think that was 2003 or 2001, not only was it super hot, people were dropping like flies, but I got food poisoning and I was throwing up like a mad person the night before. And I ended up still going out and competing, and I won the thing. So you just like, you learn a lot about yourself through challenges and what you're capable of and what you can push through. So sports has an amazing way of creating that for yourself. In regular life, it feels, sometimes you just feel like, oh, I can't do that. But sports, because there's this like out there goal, you'll push yourself a little bit harder, I think. You have a lot of people expecting, or you expect, or you set goals, and so you'll try that bit harder, and the next thing you're like, oh, actually I was able to go a bit further. So,
that's a great segue into my next question, because I was going to ask you, you're an athlete that's competed at all the major championships. You've been in Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, national championships, and all the rest of it. What's the psychology going into those different level of events? A lot of people say, well, the Com Games is a bit of a party time. We go away, we have a good time. We're not necessarily 100% fit or with it.
I said that out
loud. I've heard people say that out loud to me, yeah. And then the Olympics is like the top of the top, right? Everybody tries to be at their very, very best for the Olympics. How did you find competing across the different types of competitions?
Yeah, well, I've had all extremes. So like, I've had a Commonwealth Games where there was only 6 people in 1998, so It was a straight final. Like, what kind of thing is that? Like a major championship, that's a straight final. That is bananas. So that kind of gave me some sense of how, that was like my first major. That gave me some sense of what a major championship would feel like, even though it wasn't like heats, semis, finals. I still got to experience, traveling to Kuala Lumpur, being in an apartment with other athletes who are maybe older and more senior, and all those kinds of things. And then the other extreme, once I was already on the map and there were expectations, and you're at the Olympic Games. So mentally, what I realized when I was 15 years old, as I said, my coach, she would put me in ahead of my age races. So I remember I had a 60-meter hurdles race indoors against seniors, and I was so nervous. I was shaking, like literally arms were shaking in the blocks. And it's on your marks, set, gun goes off, everybody goes. I'm still there because I'm still nervous. I don't move.
You froze. You froze.
So I got left behind, right? And I'm about 15 at this point. And after the race, I go and I look at the results, because they always post them up on that little board when it's finished. And I realized that had I run, not even my super best, had I run close to my best, I would have been in the top 3 in that race.
Right.
So I'm like, what's the only factor that got in the way of me being able to be up where I should have been by rights. My nervousness.
Exactly.
And so then I don't know where it came from, if someone said it to me or if I just was that way wired, but I just knew from that point I wouldn't let myself get nervous. So I just kept telling myself, it's the same distance you've been training at. It's the same amount of hurdles. Yeah, they might put a few old fogies who've done this before in your but you know, why should that be a thing? They're not coming in your lane. You're not coming in theirs, hopefully. And you just do what you do and let the chips fall where they may and put that nervousness stuff to the side. So by the time I get to the Olympics, I can't even remember how old I was. By the time I got to 2000, probably early 20s, I had already started, that psychology had started from age 15.
Yeah.
So I literally, like, people were like, how you feeling about going to the Olympics? The Olympic spirit. I'm like, spirit, schmirit. I'll see you guys on the so, which was really funny because when I got to the actual Olympics and they line us up single file, so you're one behind the other depending on what lane you're in. So lane 1 is in the front, lane 2, lane 3, lane 4, and you're just like marching out there. And I still was quite laissez-faire about the whole thing. So you go through this tunnel, and eventually, now Sydney, if I'm not mistaken, was 110,000 people in that state.
Yeah.
So we start coming out, and this thing just opens up. I was like, whoa, Olympics. I mean, it hit like the Matrix. It was like, oh my gosh, it's real. The Olympic spirit thing is real. So, but still, I had been training. It's 1 lap, 10 hurdles, 7 other chicks. Okay, just do what you do. And I think that really helped me because from my perspective, what I saw with the other two, because it's not often you get 3 400-meter hurdlers from the UK competing.
Right.
That doesn't happen very often. But in 2000, there were 3 of us. And from what I saw, the nervousness had got the better of them.
Right.
And because I had psychologically trained myself, it's just the same. It's 1 lap. It's 10 hurdles. Just go do it. Because people get funny. Oh, I don't want to be in lane 1. I don't want to be in lane 7. I don't want to be in lane 8. All these little things. I need my headphones. I need to hear a certain song before. I would always avoid these things that could just get in between me and my end result. So because I had that psychology, I was able to control my emotions, my nervousness. You know, some people say instead of feeling like you're anxious, call it excitement, because even just changing the word can have an impact on how you feel. So that really had a great impact on how I performed at those championships. I was able to go through. It was the first time, Sydney was the first time I'd made, outside of Kuala Lumpur, which we can't count because Commonwealth Games straight final.
Games straight final, yeah.
The first time I had been through the rounds and made it to a final in a senior championships, and that was the Olympics. So a lot of that had to do with my thinking.
Yeah. How was the whole experience in terms of coming from the other side of the world to go to Australia to participate in the biggest sporting event in your particular sports? How was that transition for you, going down under?
It was interesting because I had been to Australia before as a world junior, and when I was still competing in the 100-meter hurdles, I think I came 4th in 1996, maybe. As I said, I don't remember these things.
Don't worry, I'll get all these things from your dad later on.
Yeah, there you go. Smart man. So I had gone to where was that championship? It might have been Melbourne. I'm not sure. We went to Australia. So I was used to, I already knew how brutal that sort of traveling was, because that was the same year that I was going to USC. And I literally was going from the championships back to London, to Los Angeles, because I hadn't never been to Los Angeles prior to that.
Right.
So I had flown all the way from Australia to London, had a 9-hour layover, and then flew to Los Angeles. It was excruciating. I think it was like 36 hours or more of traveling. So by the time I got to Sydney, you know, that was just part and parcel of the process of track and field. And when you're going to major championships like that, you go out early. So you go out 2-3 weeks before, get yourself acclimatized, get familiar with your surroundings, and so you're kind of ready for it by that time.
How does competing in the first Olympics change you as a human being? Does it change you as a human being?
Yeah, I think you're either going to get yourself all in or you're going to get yourself all out. You're okie dokie with track and field.
There's no middle ground, eh? There's no middle ground.
Your right foot in or your right foot's out, right? Yeah. Because it's I think that's where you realize either you're going to be able to go to this level or you're not. And I think for me, making the final, running a personal best, even though I think I was 8th, I know that part, I know. I was 8th place in Sydney. That was like, oh, you know, and I'd had a long season because I'd already competed the entire track and field season for my university. Yeah. So I'd been running from all the way from March, I think, to September. So that's a really long season for track and field. So I was, you know, thinking in the future, there's definitely a place for me at the games. And I think that was, you know, like I said, I was laissez-faire because I was trying to make sure that I didn't let the name Olympics overwhelm my process, because it shouldn't change. I should still be able to do what I've trained to do, regardless of what you're calling me the meet, regardless of how many people are in the stands, regardless of who lines up. I should be able to still execute what I've trained for, because there's no point training for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years and then you throw it all away because you're overwhelmed by the fact that they're calling this the Olympics. So Absolutely. That was But there definitely was that feeling of like that Olympic spirit vibe. That thing is real. Like there's definitely an energy. When I competed in 2008, just to kind of jump forward, just for the sense of explaining that feeling, when we came out to get ready for the final, Usain Bolt had just broken the world record in the 200.
Right.
So if there's any time to feel what the electrical Olympic spirit energy feels like, that was it. Like we're walking out and the stadium is like on fire. So there is definitely a different feeling at those major championships. That's why some athletes find it hard to get up for their local routes, the things that are, you know, not a lot of people understand, because there is an energy about everything you do. So
difficult to get up for the Com Games, right?
I'm not getting to say anything bad about it.
I'm going to ask you directly. I'm going to say, is there a place still in today's world for the Commonwealth Games? Do you think it still should be around?
I think it should still be around. I think for some athletes, that's a good bridge. You know, it's a good bridge to even bigger meets like the Olympic Games and the World Championships. I think it's very fun. It's really fun, the Commonwealth Games, like getting to meet other athletes from different parts of the world, different parts of the Commonwealth. I still have all the pins that I collected from my first Commonwealth Games. Like I have a towel. It is like filled with tons of pins.
Do you still have all the breakdancing photos you took while you're at the Commonwealth Games?
No, but I still have all the moves.
Okay, you gave me your diplomatic answer there. I thought you did very well in answering that diplomatically, but
Thank you very much.
you are sure that there's still a place for the Commonwealth Games in today's world.
I think so. If I was a young up and coming, I would want the opportunity to go to the Commonwealth Games, because I think in 1998, I didn't make what probably would have been the European Championships. And that was a good experience. It was a good experience to go and see what it feels like to be at a major championship, see what the stadiums are like, see how the accommodation works, see how accreditation works, see how the staff meetings work. All this stuff, you get to get a feel. And still, it's kind of, like you said, there's a kind of still a lightheartedness to it. So I definitely think, like senior athletes probably like they could take it or leave it, but I think if you're an up and coming, a junior, someone going from the juniors to the senior ranks, this is a great meet to put your training wheels on at. So, and it's fun.
Okay, cool. let's talk about your specific event, the 400-meter hurdles, because there's a lot of us out here in the world. I'm one of them that has never run a 400 meters hurdles in my life. So
no.
I want to...
You haven't?
I haven't, no. I can't get over those things, I can tell you.
We can change that, Mike.
No, we can't. We can't. No. Let's focus on you now, Tasha. Let's focus on you. Now,
okay.
So, explain your event to us in the most detail you can. What is the 400-meter hurdles?
400-meter hurdles, I'll give you the umbrella picture first. The 400-meter hurdles is one lap around the track. Obviously, it's 400 meters because we've just said that, right? So it's 400 meters. It's 10 hurdles, and they're all evenly spaced.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, I don't know any that don't, but once you get to senior ranks, everyone starts out of the blocks, and you either have a dominant or what people will call non-dominant leg that most people hurdle on. So like Sally Gunnell was a left leg hurdler. She would hurdle mainly on her left leg, as far as I know, or all on her left leg, I'm not sure. I was a right leg dominant hurdler, so I would do most of the hurdles on my right leg and some of them on my left leg. So with the 400-meter hurdles, the thing that makes it so unique is it's actually a sprint, and they call it the man's event because it is very, very tough. It's an all-out sprint, plus it's over barriers. So you're getting out the blocks, and you want to get out hard, you want to get out fast, so you can set yourself up for the rest of the race. So like, you don't want to have to sort of like, snail your way and then try and catch up, because once you get to the higher levels, these girls are gone. I mean, if you know the times out there, 52 seconds, that is very, 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 very fast for a 400 meters, let alone
over the hurdles. Yeah.
Right. Well, you don't ever want to be playing catch up, so you really want to get out. And then there's sort of what a lot of athletes will call a cruise. Like you cruise down what we call the back straight. So the straight that's on the opposite side of the home straight where the finish line is. So you start on the turn, you build your way into the back straight. Most people are cruising down that back straight. And then as you get into the second turn, you start to build up your momentum so that you can come home strong, because you want to kind of sling out of that top turn and have some momentum to drive you home, because now fatigue is probably starting to set in and you need to be able to execute technically without ending up eating track, and that requires a whole process in terms of how you finish. And then you just get off that last hurdle and just go for it. And if you ever watch the video of me running at the 2008 Olympics, I could see the big screen, and this is a huge no-no. Like, you never look at the screen, but for some reason my instinct was like, I think you need to check out who's in this race and where they are. Right, so I was looking at the screen off the last hurdle, and I could see that the I don't remember where she was from, but the other athlete that came in fourth was gaining on me, and you could see, like, as soon as this whole other gear from nowhere, I'm like, man, why do you have that gear earlier? Because it was only a 1/10 of a second between me and silver. But like, when I saw that on the screen, it's just like, whoa, like it came from nowhere. And I just, that whole push. So that you really want to have that push, because I've seen people, they get to the line and they kind of feel confident in where they are in the race, and out of nowhere, some person who's having a race of their life will just like pip them on the line. And I've actually seen people do a whole lap of honor, and then they look at the big screen and they're not in the medal position.
Oh dear.
And just for people who don't know, you don't do a lap of honor unless you're in a medal position. So it's kind of rough to do a whole lap of honor only to find out that you didn't get into the medal. So it's, that was a great overview of your race. I've got a couple of questions as a result of that now. How tall are the hurdles? How high are they off the ground? Good question. You know what? I don't get into the details.
Okay, another one on my notepad to ask your dad.
My partner is here. He can tell you all that. He actually still, when I work out, he coaches me. He knows all that stuff. I think it's 2.6 or something, or 2 meters.
So you don't go around the track before you start the race to make sure that they're not too high. You don't measure them.
You know what? I probably should, because I've had some races where I have gone and we raced the whole race. They got to hurdle 8 and they hadn't even put hurdle 8 out. So we had to run the whole freaking race again.
They hadn't put it out.
They didn't put hurdle 8 out. So you know what? Sometimes it is good to check the details.
That sounds like one of those things off the sports bloopers channel or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, it was a blooper. And the thing is, the people who make the bloopers are never the ones that have to pay the price. It's very annoying. We're the ones that still have to race again.
Now, when you were telling us,
I'll call my partner, I'll get you the details.
when you were telling us about your race, 1 lap race, that last 100 meters, is it a case of saving something to go faster, or is it all about survival and trying to maintain for that last 100 meters?
You know, you have to learn how to disperse your energy in a way that suits your style. So some people are more sprint based, some people are more strength based. So you know, we got the cheetahs and the oxes. Like the oxes will come home strong and just charge down there that you barely bat an eyelid, and then you've got the cheetahs that get out fast and then they'll hold on for dear life. But you really want to just balance the whole thing so that you know, each of the energy systems, which I don't fully understand because, like I said, I'm not into the details, but you want to make sure that the way that you're tapping into each of the energy systems makes sense for where you are in the race, because lactic's going to kick in at a certain point. You know, your sprint cycle is going to evaporate a certain, because you can only go so fast for so long. So you need to make sure that the way that you're dispersing energy makes sense for you to be able to finish this race. Finishing was always difficult for me. So that comes from training. So you have to train in a particular way that will enhance the areas where you're not strong, or you need to make the areas where you are good so good that your weaknesses aren't going to be something that are detrimental to your overall results.
What was the hardest part of the 400 hurdles for you? What did you find most difficult?
Training.
Yeah, that's a fair answer. Yeah, that's a fair answer.
Training for 400 meter hurdles, because I mean, I don't know, I've seen some weird stuff going on these days where like people are not doing over distance, like people who maybe run the 200 only ever run 200s. Like this is bizarre to me. I always feel like I needed to go further than I raced in order to feel strong when I get to the line. There's nothing worse than stepping up to the line and feeling like you're not ready. There's nothing worse than stepping up to the line and feeling like you're not as strong as the other girls out there. Yeah. So it's important for me, it was important to go over distance. I did 800s, I did thousands, I did, 2 miles, 3 miles, things like that to make me feel strong. Because I want to feel like when I step up for the 400 meter hurdles, that's nothing,
Yeah.
But you only ever do, if I only ever run a 400 and now I've got to run a 400 back-to-back days at the highest level I ever run in my life, that starts to be like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to make it?
Yeah, that's where the conditioning comes into it, right?
Exactly. So I'm old school. I just, I believe in the conditioning. I believe in over distance, not just for the physical aspects of it, but for the mental part of it. There is something about knowing that you can go that distance mentally that gives you confidence when you have to go the distance for your event.
Now, I know part of the answer to this next question, because it's going to be Tasha Danvers. That's going to be the answer you give me. But who was the role model when you first started in the hurdles? Was there someone you looked up to that you kind of said, I want to be like them, or I want to be better than them?
No, actually. It's weird because I was never someone who had, like, I don't remember even ever watching sports, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. It was just something that I did at school that they said I did well, so I should keep going. But I don't ever remember. By the time I started recognizing who athletes were, I was already well in the sport myself. So I don't ever think so my heroes came later, when I kind of understood what it meant to be good at what you do.
Right.
Like I knew what it takes to be great. That's when I started having people that I admired. So
were they heroes in your discipline though, or were they just athletes in general? Like, you mentioned Usain Bolt before. How could you not be inspired by that guy and the way that he used to run, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, as I got older, knowing what it takes to be great in the 400-meter hurdles, Sally Gunnell's a no-brainer, you know, in terms of what she accomplished and what she's done with what she did with her career, but also people like Muhammad Ali, Moses. These are all people who I really admired. So it does inspire you, because especially when you do sports, because it's easy to be an armchair athlete and say, oh, he should have kicked that ball, he should have, that man was free over there, and like, oh, she needs to fix those last hurdles or whatever it is, so he just needs to train harder. Like, you can say all that stuff when you're sitting in your armchair, but when you're out there day after day in the cold, in snow, I mean, I remember training in snow and got chilblains when I got home because my fingers are literally frozen. We were doing starts, let's not even get into that, we were doing starts in the snow. No comment, but we were doing starts in the snow, right? So my hands were freezing, and you know, I got home and it was so painful as they started to like thaw out or whatever was going on. And that's the part people don't see, the injuries, the tears, the frustration, you know, or you want something so badly, it doesn't happen, all these different things that you go through as an athlete. There's so many athletes that get depressed and have mental health issues, so it's a tough situation. So it's easy to come from a place of what someone would do when you're not doing it. So when you are doing it and you see people who have done it at the highest level, Kelly Holmes, you know, Jessica Ellis, all these greats for the UK, it's like, you're like, yeah, no, I know exactly what you've been through, you know. So you have a different kind of perspective when you're attempting it yourself.
Let's talk about judgment, because it's a relevant thing these days. A lot of people are quick to put their views together on social media and all the rest of it. Your first Olympics was Sydney. You missed out in Athens because you had a child, and you came back in Beijing. Now, you missed Athens, and some people gave you a bit of a hard time for that. What did you? How did you deal with that?
You know, it's hilarious because at the time I was already going through my own emotional situation with being pregnant in an Olympic year. But then when I saw the comments of other people, it was just like even stabbing the heart even more, you know, comments like, maybe this is an indication of how Tasha Danvers really feels about the sport and all this nonsense. Like, okay, whatever. But at the time, it doesn't feel like whatever, because you're going through a time that's really difficult, because that's not how you know, this didn't happen in rehearsals. This isn't how you planned it all out. So it's difficult. The reality is we want to act like we're tough. We want to act like we're invincible. We want to act like we're superheroes because our business requires it sometimes. You know, you can't be soft and meek and be able to go out there and be tough and win and beat that next person. Like they don't really match. So you kind of have people see you as having that persona all the time. And sometimes people feel that that's a license to say whatever they want, whenever they want. Right. In fact, I remember a journalist saying to me that the one that had reported those comments that I just mentioned, saying to me that some of the comments that same person had made were so bad he didn't even feel he could print them. Now, you and I know British journalism, like for somebody to say that a British journalist to say a comment is so bad they weren't sure about printing it, that's a lot. Because we all print anything, right? Yeah. But we've got to look at the individual that we're talking about too, who made the comment, and we just move on from that because it's not even worth wasting our time on. Right? Exactly. Yeah. But I tell you what, I was in Athens and I was looking out for you again. I was looking out for you. But I'm glad that you had a baby, and I tell you what, it was a great thing because the next time round, when it came to Beijing, you were ready to rock and roll, right? But I was ready to rock and roll. But 2008, the beginning wasn't too good. You had a couple of injuries, didn't you? Yeah. No, I had, you know, and even to this day, when I'm working out, I've got issues with my Achilles, despite the fact that I had surgery on both of them after 2008. That year, the Achilles was just to this day, I don't know what the issue is, but my partner says it's to do with my calves being too tight and all that stuff. But at the time, we didn't really understand that. They went in and scraped it eventually. which I think temporarily gave some relief. But during the 2008 year, you're not going to have surgery. That's not going to happen. So the interesting thing was, at the beginning of the year, I saw many of the great 400-meter hurdlers, for some reason or another, falling out of the championships. Yep. So they weren't competing, or they didn't make the team. And I'm like, oh, this may be the chance.
This is it.
It's opening up for me. Yeah. And then I started and I was like, okay, maybe it's for somebody else.
The universe is conspiring for you.
Yeah, that's what I thought, until I started getting Achilles problems. So I'm like starting to freak out now, because actually it would always get worse once I put my spikes on, once we started training in spikes. But the reason why you're starting to train in spikes is because you're going to get ready to start competing soon. So now we're like very close to competition season, like our opening. And this was really freaking me out, because I'm like, we don't have time. We don't have that much wiggle room to be injured and come back and still be in a good position. And I had trained my booty off. I mean, I had trained so hard, because I'd been coming back from having a baby, and it was so long since I'd been to the Olympic Games, and I just wanted it so bad. I don't know if I wanted to prove anything wrong, but I definitely want to prove anyone who had said anything negative about me wrong. But I definitely wanted to prove to myself that I could. Yeah. So I really, 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 that's the hardest I'd ever worked in my career. So to think that you've done all this work and it's not going to amount to anything is very, 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 very difficult. So the UK flew me back from Los Angeles to get treatment, got treatment, and it was working out great. Went out, did my first little session for, to get back in training. And I lie to you not, I was barely even doing a stride, and I felt something weird in my hamstring, and I went and get it checked out. They're like, oh, you've torn some fibers.
Oh, no.
So they start working on that, and some time goes by. Again, same thing. Go out, tear more fibers. I'm like, what? Am I made of like rice paper? What is going on? So it was a really trying season, and because of all those little things happening, it meant that I wasn't competing yet. And when I was competing, I wasn't doing that great, because I hadn't had the chance to really get. There's training for building yourself up for your race, but you also have to race. There's race shape and there's training shape. So in order to get into racing shape, you have to race. It would usually take me about 8 meets before I could get to my peak. So 8 competitions before I could hit my peak. And so these are, this is not happening. So it was really, 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 really challenging. So eventually we got to the games, and it was still touch and go. There were certain things I wasn't doing still. I wasn't running around turns. I was just being very cautious and careful, and it worked.
Well, let's talk about that, because there were the naysayers that were saying that you shouldn't have even been selected for the Great Britain team to go to Beijing. Yeah, the doubters again, they show their ugly heads. So how much of that was an inspiration when you got to Beijing? You just said before that some of it was to prove people wrong. Was that something you were taking into those games?
I don't think it was really to prove people wrong. I mean, maybe somewhere in my subconscious that was going on in the background, maybe. But I just really wanted to do it, because that had been my plan all along. Like, I had planned to be at the games in 2004. So I wanted to be at the games even more now than I did 8 years prior, 4 years prior. So my last games had been in 2000, and I genuinely believed I could do it. So I wanted to do what I genuinely believed I could do. So I was just so focused. I think that's the most focused on anything I've ever been in my life. Like I just, everything was about getting to these games and doing and being on track, and the mental training and the physical training. And so I just wanted it all to pan out and go right, because 8 years is a long time to go by and then not get the result that you want. So the inspiration was just I wanted to do it, and sometimes I think as well, somewhere in me, I don't think I wanted to have my son feel like I'd given up on my dreams because he was born, or I wasn't able to achieve what I wanted to achieve because he was born. You can have whatever you want to have, whatever you believe you can have. And I was able to believe that I could have him and I could have a good career. So that's what happened.
Yeah, brilliant. Very powerful comment, that indeed. Let's talk about the final. You got through the rounds, you got into the final. I'm interested to know, what was the tactics and strategy in the final? Did you execute what you thought you were going to execute? Because you came home with a bronze medal and a PB in that race, didn't you?
The strategy was go when the gun goes off.
Don't freeze. Don't sit in the blocks.
Yeah, don't sit in the blocks. Well, to be honest with you, the whole thing, like my coach was my husband at the time. We were going through a divorce at the time. So there was a lot going on. There's all this stuff from having my son and traveling and the whole year with all the injuries and not winning the national championships outright, not getting first at that. And all the people who said, the head coach of the team at the time, the Olympic team, said that he got, within the first hour of the team being released to the media, he got 42 texts asking why. Why have you put Tasha Danvers on the team? Within 1 hour, 42 texts. Like, that's how much people are like, get this chick out of here. So to bring it all together and go through all that I'd been through, because I've been through way more than I'm even mentioning on here, because it's like a lot of more personal stuff. I had been through a lot to that point, so it's almost like this needed to happen, to change the trajectory of what was happening in my life at the time. So I am very grateful that I stuck to my process and stayed determined. It was interesting when I got through the UK national championships, where they were going to select who was going to be on the team, and I didn't win that. And that was crushing, because I knew that they could not pick both of the two that were eligible to go. So once we crossed the line, there were two of us that were eligible, but I knew they could only take one.
Right.
And that was crushing, because on paper, as you can see by the response of how people acted when they found out I was selected, on paper, she should have been the one they picked. She'd been running very well. She was young and up and coming. It would be a great experience for her, that she could be the next in line for the, even if she wasn't going to win at this games, it sets her up to be a champion at the next games, or, all of this stuff. So once I crossed the line and I didn't come first, that was really devastating, because I knew chances were they were not going to pick me, and my destiny felt like it was out of my hands for the first time. Like everything else up to that point, how I think, how I train. So I let myself have a chocolate meltdown for about 10 minutes. I was a chocolate puddle, and then after that, I just got back to, I had focused so much on the fact that I would be at those games. After I had my chocolate meltdown, I could not fathom any other option. I couldn't fathom not being at the game. So I just went back to how I normally acted. I visualized. I got a song that would inspire me. It was actually Busta Rhymes and Linkin Park.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
This song, Together We Made It. We made it even though we had our backs up against the wall. And there's even some words about hurdling in that song. So
right.
I would play that song, and I would visualize crossing the line, pointing up to my coach. We did it. And I just did that for 7 days while they were going through the selection, and training like normal and behaving like normal, doing everything as if I was still on the team. And as you know, I was selected. So I think they made a good choice.
So,
for me.
Yeah, no question about it. So when you get across that finish line in Beijing and you are in third position, and as you said, you're only a 10th away from a silver medal, right? So
yeah.
how was that feeling? Was there a sense of redemption? Did you want to pick up the phone and start texting all the naysayers straight away and telling them how was?
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to ask, did any of them come out of the woodwork and actually congratulate you on an amazing effort?
I don't even remember. The naysayers were probably the last thing on my mind at the time. My first instinct was, don't celebrate yet. Make sure you see your name on that board before you start going around doing your lap of honor. Because like I told you before, I've seen stranger things happen. And I knew that girl was pretty close. And she was so far on the inside from where I was, I think I was in lane 7, that I couldn't tell. So I waited and I waited and I waited. And then when my name came up in the lights, oh my gosh, like it's all come together. It's all happened. I mean, you don't even know what to do with yourself, like, because no one that you would normally celebrate with is there.
Yeah.
So you're like doing cartwheels on your own, looking crazy. Because you especially when you've been through a lot to get to there, like, and you finally seen. I had my whole career. I mean, I'd been silver medalist at the Commonwealth Games. But I'd never had a major championship like Worlds or Olympics, been on the podium. And to go through all that I went through and then get on the podium was really, really, it was a big, big moment. It was so big that after I went to the drug testing, I called my dad, I called my parents, I called my dad. I said, Dad, did you see the race? He said, yes, but did you see Usain Bolt? I'm like, okay.
Good one, Dad. Good one, Dad.
So, it was great. It was great. My parents were excited. It's funny because I remember speaking to someone who had they had known, they were around the area. They were part of the group that were around the area where I would train at in the lead up to the games. And they knew everything that was going on, just like all the trials and tribulations. And so they were back home at the track. They would have viewing parties and they would have people come and watch the games at the track. And we already had Christine win gold, and they told me that when Christine won, everyone was cheering and yeah, gold. But they said when you got that bronze, it's like the roof went off the place.
Fantastic.
And it's not that there was anything wrong with Christine's performance or anything like that, but it was just knowing that that journey that had to happen, and everyone saying I shouldn't be there, and everything that you push through and push past and overcome to be able to be an Olympic medalist. And I think people can connect with that because we all have our challenges and our trials and tribulations and the things that we have to get over in life. I call it the podium of life.
Yeah.
There's a podium of life. There's things that we want to get to the top of, and there's a blueprint for success, and it can be really difficult to get that. Either people are in our own way or we get in our own way, or whatever the case may be. We just feel often that we can't make it. So when someone makes it, it's something that everyone can connect with because everyone wants to make it in their own right.
Beautifully said. I like the podium of life. That's a great thing. I'm going to steal that from you and use it.
You can borrow it.
I want to go from talking about one of the highlights of your career to talking about something you've mentioned before in the show today, and that's mental health, because there's a lot of things going on in the world of sport, as you've alluded to a number of times today, in athletes' life off the track that has a significant impact on their life journey. And one of those things is about coming to the end of their careers and retiring and stepping away from it. A lot of athletes don't plan for life after sport. What was your process in terms of heading towards retirement? Did you have a plan B after you stepped off the track for the last time?
Here's the thing about sports and plan Bs and backups and what you're going to do next. Of course, if you're a mega star, the thing's probably just going to roll out for you anyway, right? You're a mega star. They're going to say, do you want to come and do commentate? Do you want to come and give a speech? Do you want to? So stuff kind of like just will unfold for itself. But if you're in that, just the tier underneath, you know, you're not the Dame or the Sir or Usain Bolt or whatever. It's a different situation. And here's the thing. When you're an athlete, your mindset is, I will succeed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So given what I just said, if you think you will succeed, then what's going to happen next? Then things will just roll out for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get asked to do commentary. You're going to get asked to do shows. You're going to get asked to, you know, things will just, the money will come in, this, that, and the other, excuse me. So in order to plan for an athlete, I think there's kind of a double-edged sword, because in order to plan, it's almost as if you have to admit that you won't succeed.
Right.
Yeah. Because if you have to plan, it means your plan didn't work out. And no athlete wants to admit that their plan is not going to work. So if I'm saying to myself, I'm going to be the Olympic champion, then I don't need to have this grand plan. Okay, well, I better get a safety net because, you know, I'm not going to make it. Like the whole process of being an athlete is often about not thinking that you're not gonna make it. Mm-hmm. But in order to plan, you have to think that you're not gonna make it. So it's very difficult for athletes to admit that they need a plan for after the sport, because the plan means you failed in your mind, right? Even getting ready, even when people are sort of like, they have a bad year or they get injured, and maybe it's time where they should start like looking at other options. Like, no, just one more year. I just need to fix one more thing in my training. If I don't get injured this year, then you know, they always have this thing that they're going to make it. So if you're going to make it and everything's going to work out, what do you need this safety net for? It's different when you're in sort of like business or, you know, or employed, because it's okay almost to say, oh, it's smart. You know, you need a safety net. What if the business doesn't work out, or someone could fire you at any point? But when you think you're in control of everything, and, you know, if I just do this much more, if I do more winter training, if I do more speed work, or do this, do that, if I do more mental work, I will win. And when I win, everything will work out. Then it's really, really, really difficult position to be in. And unfortunately, for most athletes, it doesn't work out. And even when it does work out, it doesn't mean that now your world is made of milk and honey and you can, jet around the world. And most athletes are living at a poverty level by this, you know, by the standards of their country. So they're on minimum wage equivalent with what they earn through sports. So for me, that was somewhat the case. I didn't want to admit that it might not work out. So I wasn't really coming up with any grand plans. And quite frankly, I had been in sports since I was 15. So I had no idea what else I wanted to do. And the stuff I was interested in doing would come as a result of me being successful. So I wanted to be on Dancing with the Stars and Survivor and, you know, Big Brother and all that stuff. As you can see, I'm not shy of the camera.
And now the Global Sports Channel. I'm very impressed. Very impressed.
Thank you. That was my number one thing, but, you know, you went around.
Went around then, yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, so that's challenging. So it's a big crash for a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
When that bubble pops and you've realize you're in the real world and there's a lot of things you don't know, basic things like how to write a resume. You never had a job probably, right? Or you spent 20 years. I spent 20 years doing track and field. What do I write on the darn resume? I didn't know how to write a resume. I didn't know what to put on it. I hadn't worked. Well, you've been in jail the last 20 years. What's going on here? You know, so it's
So for young kids that are sitting here listening and watching you now talking about this, and they're just starting off on a potential athletic career, what advice do you give them in terms of this? Do you say to them, look, just get out there and focus on your athletic career and do the best job you can and everything else will unfold? Or do you actually say to them, look, just be wary of all the different things that can happen?
Yeah, first of all, you know, this is a completely different world than I grew up in. There wasn't this constant, like, I don't even know how some of them are even getting their training in when they're filming, like the whole entire time. Like, how do you got Yeah, and I'm now doing my 200 meters.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you doing this? Like, how do you focus when you're so distracted by this social media thing? But so the world is very different anyway. So there's, number one, just especially in this world, remember that whatever you put out there, it's there. You can't undo it. So just be wise in what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
You don't have to be fake, but just be smart about it. As far as career goes, one of the things that I, looking back, if I knew what I know as an adult, when I started I was doing a pentathlon, and a lot of the coach that I went to get my hurdling up to par, he told me that I needed to stop doing all these other events and specialize. I don't think that, in my opinion, that was not something that a 15-year-old should do. When you're young, try as many things as you can do, because you just never know. You may think trampolining is not for you, and then you go and you realize now you're becoming like the world trampolining champion, but you don't know unless you try it. And a lot of people have found their gift by trying a bunch of stuff, right?
Especially the trampoline.
And it's very fun. I mean, it's like, remember your parents never let you jump on their bed? It's like jumping on the bed.
I think right? If I had another 2 hours to talk to you, I think there's a story there about trampolines that we haven't got to the bottom of today. I think that's the truth.
Yeah. But they definitely got a plan. In this day and age, people have their businesses on the side. Always, if I were to go back again, I would have created a business that didn't impede upon my career, but complemented my career, and I would have built that throughout my career.
Yeah.
So not say that, you fell, but just something that's going to be there, and now I can put more attention on it when I finish, and it's mine, and it's there, and it's already been creating momentum. So even if it's a public speaking career or book writing or, going into schools and working with kids. And so you don't have to do it full-fledged when you're in the middle of your career, but start something so that when you're done, you have something there rather than just like tumbleweed, cricket, silence.
Yeah.
Because especially with sports, the next generation comes in the minute, almost immediately. Like if you're not a Usain Bolt, like I said, a Kelly Holmes, a Sally Gunnell.
Yeah, the next ones are there. Yeah.
The next ones are there. And, unfortunately, like my son's generation don't know who Carl Lewis is. It's just shocking, right? You got to be aware of the reality. And I know most young athletes won't want to admit that they're not going to be superstars, but the truth is a lot of young athletes will not be superstars, and just be smart about it. Like if you do end up a superstar, great, you have a business that you've been building or something that you've been building along the way.
We're rushing through our time, but there's a few things I want to ask you before we say goodbye today. And the first one is, what did your athletic career teach you about yourself as a human being?
My athletic career taught me that I am stronger than I even realize, that the body is an amazing thing. It will try to tell you it can't go any further, but your mind can push your body further. Like there's been times like I can't go another step. And then I run the fastest of all the runs I've done. So, like I said, being sick and then going out and winning the championships, it's taught me how to win. It's taught me what it takes to succeed. So when I'm failing, I can recognize where I need to make adjustments. So, and it taught me about, I have a what I call freedom formula, because what we really all are going after is freedom. We want the freedom to choose what we do, when we do it, how many times we do it, and with whom we do it. That's for us success. That's freedom, right? So my equation is C plus D plus E equals F. So C is for clarity, D is for discipline, E is for endurance, and F is for freedom. So clarity plus discipline plus endurance equals freedom.
Wow.
And I think that is something that I got from sports.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Now, you traveled the world a lot during your career, and you saw a lot of different cultures, and I guess had a lot of amazing experiences from that travel. What did it teach you about the world and the people in the world?
Because I traveled so young, so early, I was traveling from age 15. I think I kind of took that for granted. And I'm from London. London is a very multicultural place. So I think, like, as opposed to an American youngster, I know some American youngsters who live in Los Angeles and that have never been to the beach. So for them to travel, it's like, whoa, there's a world outside. It just reinforced what I already knew, is that there's many cultures out there. There's many different ways of thinking. There's many different perspectives, styles, and it's all wonderful and it's all fantastic and it's great to go and experience. I actually feel like I need to go back and travel because I never really got to delve in, because I was there for business and I was one of those people that never wanted to go outside the hotel or do anything that might jeopardize what I was doing. So I never went to all the sites and all, I'm in Rome, I'm in Paris, and I haven't seen anything but the track and the hotel.
Right.
So, so I am due for a world tour, 80 days.
Well,
I'm going to do the world
Tokyo 21 could be the thing. Yeah, could be the thing.
Yeah, watch this space.
You watch this space. Yeah, you can go there and represent the Global Sports Channel and do some interviews for us from Tokyo. How would you like to do that?
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay,
that would be incredible.
Let's talk about that. Now, what have you been doing since you retired from running?
Oh, finding my way, Mark. I'm one of those lost souls. Like, when I finished athletics, I was
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
I was like, stick a fork in it. I am done. I was so fed up. I've been going through all my mental health issues, the depression, the feeling suicidal, the antidepressants, all that stuff. I'd been through that and I was over it. But then when you're done and you have some time, you're like, well, what do I do now? Like, what there were so many things, and I have some other talents. Like I can sing, I can write songs, I like a bit of performing here and there. So there are lots of other things that I was passionate about and wanted to do, but I didn't have a clue how to get into any of it, because I felt like all I knew was track and field. And so it's very difficult when you know something but like the back of your hand, and then you're trying to get into other things and you have no clue. So I've just been a wanderer. I've done some personal training. I do some personal development, work with people. What else have I done? Made some songs. I've done all kinds of stuff, feeling around in the dark, trying to find my way. So now I'm training and working out and working on building courses for the things like what you talked about, helping people transition out of any high level, anything, like any high level, particularly athletes, but it's the same for actors and singers and people who have been executives for 30 years. When they transition out, they can feel very lost. And I know gold medalists, I know world champions, I know world record holders who have suffered and are depressed and suicidal and all that stuff, and some have committed suicide. And I think that we need to do more to help ourselves, because no athlete unfortunately wants to admit that they are mentally struggling, because it goes against everything that you're supposed to be as a sports person. So come out and say, I'm struggling, is, you don't want your competitors to know that. So we have to find a way to, get in and help people while they're in the sports. But also, I mean, if you heard the names of the people on antidepressants and the people struggling mentally in any sport, and I know some in track and field, you would fall on the floor. You would not believe it. I'm talking top athletes. So we gotta do something.
Hey, I've got a audience question for you before we finish today.
Oh, we're live?
It's a no. I had it prepared beforehand.
Gotcha.
I told all my world that I'm talking to you today, right? And they're all going, "Oh, ask her this, ask her this, ask her this."
Right. Oh well, you can cut that bit out. You can edit that bit.
This is a pretty lame one though, but I think it's quite funny. So
don't say that; they can hear you.
Yeah, I don't care. So this person who goes by the name of Tony. Hello, Tony.
Tony.
Thanks for your question. Tony wants to know, what is your favorite snack food when you're traveling?
Favorite, you know what? When I was saying the 2008 Olympic Games, I was on watermelon, and I think that was the key.
Oh, watermelon.
That's what won it for me. Watermelon, because I could get some food in, and I could get hydrated, but not full and bloated and all that stuff. So watermelon was my go-to. I think the people thought I was crazy every time I'd go into the hall. There's all these cuisines from every country in the world. It was the size of 2 football stadiums, and I was having watermelon.
There you go. If you're out there and you're a watermelon manufacturer or a producer, Tasha is looking for a sponsor, so you can tap her on the shoulder. Yeah.
I am.
Fantastic.
I'm going to the games.
Well, listen, as I say, I could talk for another couple of hours to you because you're very interesting, and I might have to get you back on the show because we might get you singing on the next one. How about that? You do a song for us? Yeah.
The Danvers Experience Part 2.
I'm already looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's do it, and I'll send you some songs, and you can decide if you want me to sing.
No, I'm going to put you on the spot. I trust you 100%. So, Tasha, thank you very much for coming on the Global Sports Channel today. It's been a blast having you on the show, and also very inspiring because you've shared a lot of important messages there for people that not just in sports but in life in general, and I admire you for that. So thank you very much for being open, transparent, and honest with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. I look forward to part 2, Mark.
Fantastic. Thanks. A lot of the time on this show I come across people that I could talk to for hours and hours about not only their sport, about their life as well. Tasha Danvers is one of those people, and I hope you enjoyed this episode from the Global Sports Channel, and a wonderful story and a wonderful journey of a lady who's been through a lot of adversity in her life and definitely come out the other side. And something tells me you're going to be seeing a lot more of Tasha with the Global Sports Channel, so stay tuned for that. Now, if you've been following our journey, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the little notification bell, and you'll be told every time we drop a video. And if you're one of those people that love social media, then head on over to our social media sites on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and connect with us there. We'd love to have your comments and feedback on what you think about not only our interviews, but also the other content that we have out there on our website. And that's at www.globalsportschannel.com. Head on over there, plenty of sports content for you to check out. My name's Mark Philpott. I'm going to be back again very soon with another episode from the Global Sports Channel. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay fit, everyone. Bye for now.